We're in a series on 7 sight reading secrets. Today we have secret number 2. It's something that helps the student take the skills, the proficiency skills that they've been working on, the 5-finger patterns for the beginners, or the simple cadence for the elementary student, or the triads and inversions for late elementary, extended cadence later. Those kinds of things. Are they just, is it just pencil pushing for the finger pushing for the pianist, or is it really helpful in understanding the piece? Well, I think it's helpful. So I will spend time at the lesson if a student makes a mistake. Sometimes if they don't, even I will ask some questions. But if a beginner makes a mistake and they have a wrong note and the chord, let's say, is in root position, we will discover together using intervals and landmarks what the right notes are, and then identify the chord as D minor or A major or something like that. In a little bit more advanced setting, if the student has done triads and inversions, and then they make a mistake, then I will reference that. Even if they make a mistake in the inversion, I'll say, well, what's the root of that chord? And they have to remember it's the top note of the big skip, right? So what's the root of that second chord? It's G, right? So you played you played maybe a B flat instead of G minor right there. So I use those, it shows them that it's worthwhile to do the proficiency skills, number one. Number two, it also provides an opportunity for them to review that rule on how to identify the root of an inversion, because doing it once, we all know, doesn't cut it for very long. They'll soon forget it. Now, if you have a more advanced student, for example, there's a Haydn sonata in C here that goes like this. So you and I hear the circle of fifths. I don't know what the student hears, but I want to help them think the chords, to see the chords, and then at this level, beyond that, to discover the circle of fifths. Here's what I would do. I would have them block the chords so we can identify the chords first. So block the right hand, the first half of the measure. Here's what it looks like. Okay, so they're identifying this C7, F. Now let's play this a different way. I say, let's take the left hand and let's play the root of that chord, just the root of that chord, instead of what they have. The right hand keeps blocked, so we've got this. So the first one is E, so we'll just play E here, and the next one is A, D, and G, and C7 and F. And I'll say, did that sound sort of predictable? Were you kind of able to guess what it was going to sound like next? Yeah. Well, why? I wonder why that is. Did you notice anything about the left hand going down? And if they didn't get it, notice it. Then I'll say, well, do that one more time and notice. And I might give a hint and say, notice the intervals. So they come back with, oh, they're fifths apart. So you explain this little music math thing called circle of fifths. And how does that affect your interpretation? Well, first of all, it helps to read, because you're having your student read in blocks of notes. They're seeing the chords and they're reading harmonically. So tip number 2 is to read vertically and to read harmonically. And more in depth, the more advanced that they are. Now, what does that help you with interpretation? Well, it does, because there's usually a feeling of unraveling as you come off of a circle of fifths, and quite often a diminuendo works right there, and that's why. And I want my students to know why they make a diminuendo or crescendo or retard, because if they understand why for the music, and I think the theory, you see, if you apply it, if you bring it to bear on the score, then it opens up and unlocks an opportunity to help them see an organic interpretation that's based on what's there in the music. And I think that's really exciting. And I find my students get excited about that too. So hope that's helpful. Tip number 2, read vertically and harmonically.